Hey, Crazy Woke Asians! Welcome to the Crazy Woke Asians Comedian Spotlight Series. Tonight, we got a very special guest. She's been on the show since we started 2018, a big supporter. We love her. She's amazing. She's been on Last Comic Standing, MTV's Girl Code, Wild and Out, Joe Rogan's Experience. She has her own podcast, Koo and the Gang. You guys got to check it out. Give it up for Esther Koo! Woo!
What up, Kiki? It's Kiki and Cuckoo today.
First, Kiki and Cuckoo. What up?
We're so efficient. You just name us a syllable, and we're like, that's fine with us.
Kiki and Cuckoo. That's hilarious.
What up?
Yeah. So we want to know all about how you started in comedy and all that good stuff, all the golden nuggets of comedy you're gonna share with us tonight. So tell us, how did you get started in comedy?
What, we're not going to talk about your hair? You just did like an amazing ombre, and we're just going to talk about
really?
comedy?
Fuck, I don't know if it's amazing, okay? I took me 4 days, okay? Thank you for noticing. And like a bucket of bleach. I'm not kidding. A bucket of bleach and like a 32-ounce developer, like a whole bottle. I can't believe I did all this to my hair.
Oh my God, it's crazy. You're like one of those celebrities who like got their hair done during quarantine. Like,
yeah.
What else do they know? You did it yourself.
Oh, good. I didn't. I called someone to do this for me. Yeah.
No, like all these celebrities are getting their hair and nails done, and I'm like, I wouldn't trust anybody coming over.
Yeah. Yeah, I did my nails myself too.
Me too. That's why they're bare.
I think I said crazy woke and Asians earlier, so we should drink 3 shots of whatever you're drinking right now.
Rum and Coke.
Rum and Coke. Are you guys drinking this?
What is that?
That's kombucha. It's great.
Oh, that shit gets me drunk.
Oh, that's the kind of alcohol I take.
Right? Kombucha for an Asian girl is like vodka.
Yep, for sure. Anyways, are you ready to tell us all about you? It's all about you tonight, Esther.
Oh, I mean, who else? Who else than me to talk about me?
Yeah.
Right? You picked the right person. I'm so glad Joe Wong's not doing my interview.
Well, he's gonna be on tomorrow night, Joe Wong, okay?
Yo, I started with Joe Wong.
Oh wow. You wanna tell a story about that?
We both started in Boston.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he was already like married. He had just come from China, and he was hilarious from day one. Like, he would kill it, you know? Like, we'd do all these small rooms together, and his wife would come, and he always got a really great response. People just ate him up, so I wasn't surprised when he did like the White House Correspondents' Dinner, you know?
Yeah, and the Late Show and all that.
He killed it.
So tell me about like one of the experience that you have, like the best gig that you ever had. I'm sure you had a lot, but like one.
One gig, you know, let's see. There are so many fun gigs, but probably in New York City, like when I did Wild and Out, like Wild and Out, like the best thing about Wild and Out was the rehearsal. Like, we would just like be like going off on each other like all day long, right? Like, we just have to rip on each other. That's our warm up, right? And so I just came from like, you know, it's like basically doing like an improv class for 8 hours. Wow. So I was just on fire. You know, so, and then I went to the Stand in New York City back when they were on 3rd Avenue. And I went up, and it was a small crowd, but I just had so much fun. I mean, I was high, so I don't remember any details. So I guess the story kind of sucks, but I just remember just like when you're warmed up for an all day, basically like rehearsal, like getting on stage, it's just, you're just like flying.
So you guys were just riffing all day long. So by the time they were recording, they were filming, you're like ready to go.
Well, I mean, we had rehearsal for 3 weeks.
Oh wow, I didn't know that it takes that long. I just saw I followed the IG Wild and Out, and they always put little clips. I didn't rehearse 3 weeks. Wow.
Yeah, we rehearsed for 3 weeks because we learn all the games and how to do the games so that when they tape that you know what you're doing. And I feel really bad because they invested in like they paid for my flight and my hotel for 3 weeks. And then I only made it into 2 episodes because like how many episodes you get is based on how you do in rehearsal.
Kind of like the groundlings or whatever those improv classes too, right? Like if you do well, then you can move up or you get on their shows.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But I'm sure you did better than that. Like how many?
No, the thing is, those guys, they're amazing. They're rappers and they're comedians. Yeah. So it's like I'm barely a comedian, let alone a rapper. So
how did you get on the show? Did you audition for it, or they just came and they just say, "Hey, Esther, will you be on Wild 'N Out?"
Well, one of the producers saw me at Caroline's, and then they asked me to come out to LA to audition. And then I went to audition, and it was really cool because when we were in the green room before we were going into the audition, one of the comedians, Omi, he was like, "Hey, you guys want to do an improv warm up?" And usually when you're at an audition, you're just kind of sitting there, just like eyeing everybody else, like, right? Like, oh, she looks bad in that dress or whatever. And but it had a really collaborative feel from the beginning, from like the callback audition. So I felt like we were really warmed up, and I do find that on the days when I've spent like the full day like jamming with my friends or just being social during the day, it helps me be like so much more like just so much on top of it when I get to my show.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah. And you were also on Girl Code. Did you audition for that, or one of the people just invited you on it?
It's so funny that anybody thinks that you just get invited to any show.
Because you're amazing. I think you do, but I don't know about other people. But
no, I've auditioned for everything that I've got.
You're working hard. You're hustling hard.
Well, like, you don't see all the auditions that I don't get, right? Like, we audition all the time that it almost becomes our job to audition. Yeah. And, sometimes you feel like, should I even bother going on this audition? I haven't booked the last 100 auditions I've gone on. But for some reason, it's like, a drug addiction. You're like, all right, I'll go.
Yeah, it's like a high. Like, I'm just gonna do all this set. Like yesterday, I had a self-tape and I had to set up everything. I'm like, whatever. It shoots in Australia. Like, what are the chances? But okay, whatever. I'll do it. You get a high. Like, oh, I'm working. Like, yeah, I'm being professional. And then
you're like, oh, do I want to fly across the hemisphere for during a coronavirus pandemic? Sure.
Yeah, right? For 6 to 8 months, go live there with all the coronavirus racism going on. I don't know, but I mean, Brian, we have an Australian here right now on the show watching, so shout out to Brian.
An Australian. I'm glad he's muted, thank God, so we don't have to listen to that Foster's beer accent.
Have you ever used an Australian accent when you auditioned? Did you ever have to?
No, no one ever writes a part for an Asian Australian girl,
right? So what kind of parts do you audition for?
Like a lot of comedic roles. Like I feel like half of my auditions are for like Asian girl, and then half of them are for funny girl.
Oh yeah, for the Asian.
Yeah.
Tell me about that audition. The job that you booked. I remember you did something different in the room, and then you booked it. It was like a comedy series.
Oh, the Jack and Triumph show?
Yes, Jack and Triumph.
Oh, yeah. So the Jack and Triumph show was a sitcom that lasted for 7 episodes on Adult Swim. Jack and Triumph show was a show that lasted on Adult Swim for 7 episodes. But it kind of like got canceled before it really even got a chance to get off the ground, which was unfortunate. But it was a sitcom that taped in front of a live audience.
Oh, wow.
Which I prefer because I'm used to live audiences, right? Better than just a dead studio.
Yeah.
So that audition was a 9-page audition. And, sometimes when you get these really long auditions, you're like, all right, so much to learn. But I learned it all. And when I went to, when I got the call back, I added some jokes to the script. So the show is about Triumph the Insult Comic Dog. And in the script, I'm basically like June Squibb's assistant, and I added some dialogue at the end. I didn't like take out any, I didn't subtract any dialogue. Yeah. I just added one line. And each take I added a different line. Like I was like, oh, then he told me to go to Wikipedia and change kibbles of bits and bits to kibbles of tits and tits. You know, so I would add my own like jokes, but that was but jokes that would kind of go along with the jokes that were already in the script.
Yeah.
You know, because it's already a comedy, so I felt safe to do that. And then each take it was a different joke. So I kind of kept it fresh for them.
Wow.
They, you know, when you go to a callback, I went to like the studio. And it was, the callback was basically in front of, like, everybody in the crew was already hired. And, like, my role was, like, the last one they filled. So the whole crew was there. There was no audience, but the whole crew was there. And, you know, sometimes when you just make the crew laugh, it's easier to kind of, you know, the day just goes by faster. So anything that can help the day go by faster for the crew, I think it's just good for the morale of the whole set.
Yeah, and they love you, so they're like, please cast her. We want to work with her.
Right. Yeah, and I remember that day I was so sick. You remember those days when you had to like do something really important and you're like, all these days I get sick on this day, and I was so sick, but also like, you know, trying to hide the fact that I'm sick because you don't want to get other people sick. But after this whole virus, man, like you'll be publicly shamed if you go to work sick now.
Oh yeah.
Right? You'll be publicly shamed if you go to work Asian.
And without a mask. I think I'm gonna be wearing a mask forever.
Yeah.
What do you think about all the coronavirus racism?
I think it's great. No.
The Asians love that.
You know, Black people have had it so hard in this country. It's, you know, it's our turn to take the burden. No, obviously, I'm a comedian. These are jokes.
Yes. You know, guys, these are jokes.
Right. You know, I think it's a very small percentage of people. Obviously, it's wrong, and hopefully nothing happens to any more Asians because, you know, some dumb people think that we brought the virus here or whatever. But that's why I love Andrew Cuomo. Every time he does a news update, he's like, the virus didn't come from China. It came from Europe. The cases that are in New York came from Europe. I'm like, yeah, Europeans, take that. We could racially profile Europeans.
Oh, wow.
So I feel like we could, you know, use this opportunity to spread the racism across the globe.
Right? Make it all equal.
Yeah, I mean, it is scary because, you know, when you do read about an attack on an Asian American in this country, you know, you realize how vulnerable other minorities, you know, because for the most part, Asians don't get attacked at the same level that, you know, Latinos or Black people get attacked, obviously. So I think it's a good opportunity for Asian Americans to kind of use that as a way to empathize with other minorities who probably have it way worse than we do.
Yeah, that's a good perspective to look at it.
That's my Miss America answer.
Yay. That's a very woke answer. Let's take you're drinking. I'm taking a shot. Hey, tell me about your experience on Last Comic Standing. You were like the only Asian female on that season. What season was that on?
Season 6.
How was that experience? I mean, how did you even, like, what made you want to do Last Comic Standing?
Oh my God. Well, you know, I started in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And when, you know, Boston's a very comedy, like, heavy town.
Mm-hmm.
So I would watch Last Comic Standing. So I'd be watching, like, I remember watching Rich Voss and Dat Fan on Last Comic Standing. And then I ran into Rich Voss at an elevator in a hotel in Philly.
Wow.
And I was like, I got in the elevator and Rich Voss was standing in the elevator. And I get in and I had just seen him on Last Comic Standing. Like this was like in 2004.
Wow.
So I get in the elevator and I'm like, are you Rich Voss?
You're like, I know you are, but you don't know what to say, right? Like,
but that's a good icebreaker when you see a celebrity, is to say, are you Rich Voss? So he goes, yeah. And
yeah, leave me alone.
I was like, oh, I'm a comedian and I'm here to do the open mic at Helium and I live in Boston. And he goes, you drove here from Boston to do an open mic? And I was like, well, I'm also here selling pens. And, you know, because it was a nice hotel that he was staying in. And I happened to be staying in the same hotel that he was staying in to perform at the Helium.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was cool. So when you see other comedians on a TV show like that, it kind of, you're aware of what the possibilities are. Mm-hmm. So then Last Comic Standing came and auditioned comedians in Boston. And I'd been doing stand-up for 3 years. And, you know, it's a small comedy community. So everybody heard like, oh, Last Comic Standing is coming. And I went to the Comedy Connection in Faneuil Hall, which is no longer there. And I auditioned. But I had never been on camera before for anything.
Wow.
So, you know, we were backstage in like the bar area and they like taped my performance and then they put a camera on me in the bar and were asking questions, how long you've been doing comedy and all this stuff. And like, I wasn't used to being on camera. So when they were asking me stuff on camera, my eyes were going everywhere.
What? They're like, this Asian can't control her eyes.
So they passed on me the first time I auditioned.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was probably season 5. And they said, oh, she's funny, but she's very green. And you'll hear that a lot when, you know, you're first starting out is, oh, she's great, but she's green. So I just kind of stored it in the back of my mind. And I thought maybe I'll audition another year and that's fine. So, and then once I moved to New York, I auditioned again. So yeah, everything I've gotten is due to an audition. The thing is, when people hire you, they're putting their jobs on the line. So, you know, no one's going to hire you without an audition unless you're Leonardo DiCaprio. You know what I mean?
Then you're producing stuff. So
yeah.
Once you got on there, like, how was the experience? Like was it nerve-wracking every time before you go up? Like, how did it, what was it like?
Yeah, it was crazy because I had never performed for 1,200 people before. And the worst part is that with a TV taping, they light up the audience. So unlike in a comedy club where you only see the front 2 rows, now you're literally seeing every single person's face and if they're laughing or not, if they have their arms crossed. And it's horrible because you're like, not only are they taping this, now I could see everybody's face. So I think sometimes that takes a little bit of getting used to when you're doing a TV taping because it's awful.
Yeah.
It's awful, but you gotta just like, I just like would like scan the top of their head, you know, like, cause if you know, when you're like looking into the audience and you make contact with somebody who's not having fun,
yep,
it could kill your spirit. So
yeah,
I'm like, let me just look at the top of heads, then it looks like I'm looking at them.
And you dressed really well on the show. I remember seeing clips of it. Like,
oh, you know who told me to dress well?
Who?
Ralphie May.
What did he say?
So I had made the first round in New York. Then I did a show. My manager, Jason Steinberg, he got me a spot opening for Ralphie May. And so I met him, and then we all went out for ice cream afterwards. And while we were sitting in front of Baskin Robbins, Ralphie May goes, make sure you dress cute for the show. They picked you to be the cute girl.
Huh.
And it was almost like I needed to hear that because, you know, I normally went up on stage in jeans and a t-shirt. You know, like that was just my kind of like my uniform. And but you know, they do say like if you're you should be more dressed up than the audience. Yeah. And it was fine for me to be casual at like, you know, little clubs here and there in Boston, but when you're doing a TV taping, you do want to look nice. And I was so brand new to everything that it was nice for somebody to literally say that to me.
Yeah.
So I went shopping. I went to like these Colombian stores in, I think it was in Astoria or something. Where was it? Yeah, you know, they have all these boutiques in New York, right?
Yeah.
So I bought like clubbing clothes.
You're like, I'm gonna have a party on stage.
And you know, the thing about like picking out outfits for wearing on TV, like it's deceiving because sometimes you could put something on and it looks nice on you, but then you take a picture of it and you look at the picture and you're like, oh, that doesn't look nice. I look horrible. Yeah. So I think that's something that new performers need to kind of know, so that you could kind of test, you know, then you get an outsider's perspective.
I'd be taking selfies of myself, like before, like I in my closet, like, does that look fine before I go to do a show at the Comedy Store sometimes, just because, you know, like you want to look nice, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. And then once I got on the show, so when I went to Vegas, one of the wardrobe stylists tried to put me in this like humongous bulky red sweater. And like she like pulled it off the rack. She's like, "Oh, this is great for you." And I was like, "No, I've never been funny in that. I don't know. I've only been funny in my clothes, so I might bomb if I wear that sweater." And she just put it away. But you know, you gotta like watch out because some of these wardrobe stylists, they get paid by a clothing company.
Oh.
You know, there's a reason why she was pushing that sweater on me. It definitely looked horrible on me and it just like hid my figure.
Yeah, you're gonna be frumpy and you're gonna feel like this when you do your jokes. And I really believe what you wear really affects like your energy on stage.
Totally, or just in general in life. You don't have to be on stage. And so I felt proud of myself that I was able to defend my wardrobe choices because I specifically like went shopping and I specifically like laid out what I was gonna wear. And you know, I put some thought into it that when she came at me like, oh, here's a sweater to wear. And I was like, no. And I had an answer for her. I had a rebuttal right away and I just made it up. Like,
that's great.
Well, how can she, you know, compete with that of, I've never been funny in that outfit. What can you say? Right?
Yes. So what makes a great joke to you? Like, what is a great joke like to you?
I think a great joke is something that, you know, you don't see coming. And it's this like great jokes are like great movies. You know, you watch it and you're like, oh, I know she's gonna sleep with him, and then you know, like you could almost predict
with 10 other people.
Movies that are predictable, they're just like so boring to watch. But movies that you can't predict and you're like sitting at the edge of your seat like, holy shit, I didn't see that coming. And then the next one, I didn't see that coming. So I think, you know, a movie and a stand-up set are very similar. You know, if you keep the audience on their toes and they don't see the twists and the turns and you keep them at the edge of their seat, I think that's when you really have them.
So how do you construct a joke? Do you write everything down or like bullets, or do you get physical? How does a joke come to you?
Usually a joke comes to me in conversations with my friends. You know, I think that's where most jokes are probably born. And then because just like sitting down at my desk, opening a notebook and just writing, it's just such a sterile environment that yeah, like I thrive off of like social interaction and communication. So, you know, sometimes when I'm just talking to my friends on the phone, I'll say something funny and they'll be like, oh, you should use that on stage. And they assume that I'm like sneaking jokes in conversation, which I would never do, you know, like, I think a lot of times, just having interactions with other people, is such a great way to create jokes. That's why I always say, like, any job where you're interacting with a lot of different people and new people all the time is a great job for a comedian, because it gives you a chance to practice. Like, when I was in college, I worked for a couple .coms and I did marketing for them. Oh. And I passed out flyers in the quad at my school. And as kids are walking by, I would hand them a flyer. And I'd say, oh, go to this website. You don't need to go to class. You can just download the notes from this website. And I would make jokes and I would interact with people. And it just kind of gave me good training for stand-up.
For sure. So what would you say to, like, what was that?
Or waiting tables is also
waiting
like
tables, yeah.
It's a great job, because you do get like those couples or those people who are like sick of eating with each other and they want to talk to you.
Were you a waitress before for a while in Boston?
Yes. I waited tables at a Chicago deep dish restaurant. Oh. And also, especially because the pizza takes, deep dish pizza takes 45 minutes to cook. And sometimes when there's not a lot of customers, I just stand there and I talk to my customers. And so any job where you just talk to customers is like such a great job for a comedian.
For sure. So what are the do's and don'ts you would tell a young comedian?
Well, don't do anything that I did.
Oh boy.
Well, I'll answer that question using my mistakes. So when I was in Boston, I had a comedy partner, and I paired up with this Jewish comedian. We were called Koo and the Jew.
Catchy.
And he had been doing stand-up for 4 years. I'd been doing stand-up for 1 year. So I felt really lucky to like be working with an older comedian. Mm-hmm. And we would take down a comedian every week, and we would like go on stage. We would like write a song making fun of a comedian, and like basically like telling them why they should quit.
Oh man. Like roast battle.
Yeah, it was kind of like roast battle, but we would
2 against 1.
Yeah, but we would be vicious, and we would literally say like, here's why you should quit comedy. And we didn't call it roast battle, but it was like very it was an attack on that comedian, and we would give him a chance to rebuttal. And one time, Erin Judge, we made fun of her, and then the first thing she said got a bigger laugh than anything we said. She goes, I could see one of your comedic influences is Woody Allen. Oh. And that just got the biggest laugh, right? So it was kind of like a roast battle. But, I think comedians, we have the ability to make fun of each other. And, like if I could take away those shows, I would, because I would tell younger comedians to make friends with other comedians rather than feel like they're in a competition with them, because it does feel so competitive. It is competitive.
It is.
But, it's better to make friends with comedians and make allies and, work together and collaborate than it is to use our like gift of words to tear each other down.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's one of the don'ts. One of the do's, I would say, smoke weed if you don't.
Oh boy. Yeah?
No, just kidding. I would say
good advice. Like Misa thinks it's good advice.
Okay, good. I would say like, all these comedians nowadays, they all write their jokes in their phones. Mm. But I always love, and I still do, writing in my notebook. Mm. In like a physical notebook with a pen. And I love that. And I think when you write, your jokes. It helps you remember them. And just putting ink to paper, like, I don't know, I'm old fashioned and, you know, I write in cursive, and these kids, they don't even write in cursive anymore. So I feel like, you know, nobody writes in their notebook anymore, but I do. And it becomes a process. It almost forces you to slow down, to think about what you're writing, or you have a certain flow when you're writing, or just physically, you know, connecting your words and seeing your words on paper, I think is very valuable.
That's beautiful. That's well, shot, man. Because I try to write in my notebook, but my 4-year-old is like all over me. It's tough. So I type in my phone, but the way you said it, I think I'm gonna really try to write in my notebook.
Oh my God. And not only that, but also I keep a diary. So I've been keeping a diary for the past 18 years.
Of your comedy, like adventures?
Yeah, of everything.
Wow.
My diaries are mostly about my love life.
Are there jokes in there?
Well, it's funny. I have these jokes. So I carry a notebook. I've been carrying a notebook everywhere I go for the past 25 years, right? So so when I'm out and about, and when I'm at a show, and there's always downtime every show you go to, and not every show has 20 comedians on it to be chatting with backstage. So a lot of times you're on a bus, you're on a train, you're on a plane, and I take out my notebook and I start writing Dear Diary, right? And just, and just writing in your notebook, just kind of, it almost becomes your therapist.
Yeah.
And I learned this, Joan Rivers always wrote about it in her book, to keep a journal. She highly recommended it. And then also, like, writing in your diary is like taking a photo of yourself, right? So it's like taking a photo of yourself today means nothing to you right now, because you're like, oh, that's what I look like. But in 10 years, you look at that photo, you're like, holy shit, that's what I look like?
So have you been reading a lot of your diary since the quarantine, like from 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
I've literally read every diary entry that I've written since, up to probably like 2010, probably.
Wow. Okay, share one entry that is you want to share. Anything?
You want me to read an entry?
Yeah. Do you want to?
Yeah, sure. Let me pull it up.
You get to listen to Esther Koo's secret diary entry. All right.
Let me pull it up, but we could keep talking while I'm pulling it up, because I'm a woman and I can multitask. Yay.
So tell me a fun experience with a heckler. Like, how did you deal with it? Like a heckler experience.
A heckler. Okay. One time this guy answered a phone call while I was on stage.
Oh my gosh.
And you know, these drunk guys, when they answer phone calls during comedy shows, they're so like not self-aware of how loud they're being. Right? So
What'd you do? What'd you say?
So I took his phone.
Oh, he was right in front of you, or you got off stage to take the phone?
He was sitting in the fucking front row.
Oh my gosh, how rude. So you took the phone and then you threw it at him?
No. Then I put the phone on speakerphone and I put it towards the microphone.
And who was on?
I forget who was on, but
was he mortified?
I was basically, he couldn't do anything. He was just drunk and like,
he didn't care.
Yeah. So,
yeah, you guys heard it. If you ever pick up a phone call during Esther's set, she's gonna take that phone and press the speaker button. So
like, then I felt like a substitute teacher. Like, he wanted his phone back, and I like took it and put it on the stool so he couldn't look at his phone for the rest of the show, and the whole audience started cheering.
That's so amazing. That's hilarious.
I know, because like it's like when you have drunk hecklers, you gotta act like you're a freaking substitute teacher.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. And I found a diary entry to read you.
Yay! Ooh, do tell.
Okay, it's not anything like, salacious, because it's so funny, because when I do write about my love life, it's not about, I never really write anything very sexual, it's not like, oh my God, then his, because I almost save that for the stage for some reason. Like all my diary entries are about like getting to know a guy, or like love, or possession, or control, or jealousy. I'm like, hey, I should have written more about my sex life, right? Okay, so this is from May 24th, 2003. So I had just started like 2 months prior, right? So I'm like a baby comedian, right?
Wow.
So I said, wait, hold on, let me do it so I can see your face while I'm reading it. Okay. I wonder how many categories of comedians there are. Because I've already encountered a few different kinds already. There are the artsy types in Cambridge, and the typical guy comics working in Boston that I encountered last Thursday. I realized I need to hang out in the Boston comedy clubs more often so I can learn how mainstream comedy works, what works on those audiences, but more importantly, what doesn't work on them. I cannot stay sheltered in Cambridge forever.
Oh, that's so cute. Oh.
Okay, here's another one. Why is everyone so good to me? It's so ridiculous. I hope it can only get better. And and it is true what they say, that you have to be squeaky clean. Among your audience members, I'm sure sit feminists, radicals, punks, activists of every sort, environmentalists, fundamentalists, monks, Christians, everybody. And you're dealing with college students. This is a prime time of their lives. They are most likely to write a letter to the editor or the administration on their displeasure of choosing this certain comedic act.
Wow, you're very detailed.
So, what's been fun about reading my old diaries is like seeing how diligent and disciplined I was before I started smoking weed.
But you still write every day, right?
Well, I started writing every day during this quarantine for sure. Yeah.
Oh, so that's a good thing that came out of this quarantine.
Oh my God, there's so many good things that came out of this quarantine. I got an air fryer. I'm like, I'm frying like Korean fried chicken wings every week. So I've been like learning recipes that I normally eat at restaurants, but because I'm like paranoid about like going to restaurants, I'll like learn a recipe of a thing that I eat at a restaurant, and now I know how to make like delicious wings.
Wow, that's awesome. You should post that. Oh, we have a question from Kelly. Esther, what was an audition that you went on that you were bummed that you didn't get?
Well, I did audition for The Interview.
Oh,
that
was funny. Oh, the role, the girl that had the. Oh, I could see you play that.
Yeah, that girl from Toronto, the comedian from Toronto who got it. And when I look back at that audition, I laugh at myself because I didn't use an accent at all.
You were just like, whatever. I'm Korean already. I don't need to put on an accent. But I don't think Hollywood was ready for that yet.
But she did it in an accent. And
yeah, right? Because they wanted someone with a heavy accent, Korean accent.
Well, yeah. So I didn't do an accent. I just did it in like plain, regular English, and I'm like.
Did they try to tell you to do a take with a Korean accent?
No, I don't think so. I think they were like, she sucks in regular English. We're not gonna ask her for the accent one.
But it is a good experience though. Oh, what's a type of role or a specific role you would wish you could play?
Like, I like have you ever seen Smiley Face?
Yeah, I think so.
Where Anna Faris gets stoned on like weed muffins.
You want to be
Yeah,
Anna?
I would love to play like a stoner chick, you know?
Oh yeah, you'd be great at it.
She goes through life, like she goes through her day super stoned, not realizing that she's super stoned. And she's hilarious, and it's a really funny movie. If you haven't seen it, it's kind of like an obscure movie because it wasn't as big as House Bunny.
Oh, I think I saw parts of it. I remember she's great. She's so funny.
She's so funny, yeah.
Okay, another question, and then I'm gonna pull up a picture that we have of you, and you can talk about it. If you could voice an animated character, who would it be?
Dot Warner.
Why?
Well, because I grew up watching Animaniacs, and the Animaniacs reminded me of our family because it was like boy, girl, boy, boy, girl. So I had one older brother, one younger brother, and we were like crazy. We were crazy. Right?
I have two brothers, so yeah.
So you know how it is. It's like when there's so many boys, when the boys outnumber the girls become crazy.
Let me pull up a picture. Bam! Here we are. Oh, look at that.
That's
Tell us what's going on here. The kids love you for sure. You teach comedy for kids too, right?
Yeah, I do. Here I was in Jamaica, and this was the Trenchtown Reading Center. And I went in there and I read some books to these kids. And they just go there to have books read to them, and they were the funniest kids ever. Like, Jamaicans are hilarious. And then add the kid element, they're so funny. So one boy while I was reading a book, one boy held my nose like this. And then I was wondering why he did that. And he goes, he farted.
I thought he just wanted you to sound nasally like this for fun. He farted. Did you smell the fart?
No, I didn't smell the fart because he was protecting me from it.
Oh, how sweet.
Isn't that so cute?
Oh. What year was this?
This was probably like 2013.
Girl, you don't age. You look the same. What's going on? What's your secret? Your Korean 12-step skincare?
I don't drink much.
Good for you.
Yeah. I smoke weed. I think smoking weed like keeps you young.
Really? It doesn't dry out the skin? When I smoke, it dries my skin out. So I haven't.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny. Like, this is the longest I haven't smoked weed since like 14 years. Like, this quarantine.
You didn't smoke at all?
I haven't smoked at all because coronavirus attacks your lungs.
Yeah, and you can get it easier.
In case I get it, I wanted to kind of like have my lungs in tip-top shape, you know, because I'm super into like being healthy. So as I'm drinking a Pepsi.
Just not right now.
So I haven't smoked weed since March.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you. I mean, maybe not good. I don't know. I mean, whatever.
It's actually good because
save a lot of money.
Now I could prove to myself that I'm not addicted to weed. I mean, I was. And then I'm also just being really productive.
That's awesome.
You know? Well, but people always say, like, you're always productive even when you're high anyway. So.
I don't know about that.
Now I'm confused.
Probably a stoner would say that. What would you say to anyone who wants to do stand-up?
I would say, let's write a joke.
What was the worst bomb moment you had?
At Caroline's. Oh, okay. Well, There's a couple I could remember, but I performed at Caroline's one time. I opened for Donnell Rawlings, and right before I was about to go on stage, Charlie Murphy walked in.
Oh,
because he's friends with Donnell.
uh-huh.
So he's stopping by to like get up on the show, and I had never met Charlie Murphy before. And you know when like a famous comedian walks into the room right before you're about to go up, you know who's there. Everybody's aware of their presence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was obviously aware that he was there, and it just made me so nervous. You know, because you almost feel like, am I even worthy to be performing stand-up in front of, you know, a legend like that, right? So you just feel like I just stopped being myself even.
Oh.
You know, because you're like somebody great walks in, and it's almost like I felt like I should just let him have the stage. So I'm not even worthy of taking up this stage. Let me just give it to you. But I was being brought up like as they're like, oh, Charlie Murphy. And I'm like, they're like Esther Koo. And I'm like, ah. And so, you know, inside I just was going through so much turmoil that I couldn't get over that he was there. I just tripped over all my words. I was so bad that some guy in the audience, like nobody laughed throughout my set. Nobody. And I could hear somebody say, this is terrible.
Well, that's like my worst nightmare if that ever happened to me. Wow, how did you recover from it? You go talk to Charlie Murphy afterwards? Was he still there? Did he see your set?
Yeah, but it's so bad that I didn't want to talk to him. Like, he just saw me bomb, you know, like, so, but, you know, it's like when that happens, but it's all a learning experience, right? So, like, the next time a famous comedian walks in when I'm about to be brought up on stage, it's like you can't let that bug you out, because there are going to be famous comedians who are going to walk in. You're performing at a comedy club, you know, whether you're Charlie Murphy or anybody, you're frequenting the same places. So you can't let it throw you off. But I just let it throw me off.
And you haven't since then?
I mean, I'm sure I have, but that was an epic bomb.
So the audience is interested in knowing, like, how do you build your social media presence? Like, how do you maintain that? Like, I know you're really great at it. Like, you connect with your audience. Like, any advice to people that are trying to build and maintain their social media presence?
I think being consistent has a lot of value to it. You know, it can feel like, oh, it takes, you know, 10 minutes to post a picture or take a picture or whatever. I think just you have to be constantly creating content and also be engaging. So when people are talking to you on Twitter or leave a comment on Instagram, I think it's important to respond to them. And I haven't always been the best at that, actually. There are people who like wrote me like 12 years ago, and I literally just wrote them back this week.
Hey, never, you know, better late than never.
And one guy goes, all right, write me back. I'd love to take you out. I'm Jewish and single. And so 12 years later, I wrote him back, sorry, it's taken me so long to respond to your email. Are you still Jewish and single?
Oh my gosh. Okay, one last question before we do the lightning round. Do you feel like it's the comedians have responsibility, like when we tweet or say anything, like do you feel like we have responsibility of what we say? You know how everybody's so politically correct these days. I mean, sometimes they're very sensitive to certain things, like even the Asian community. Like, do you feel like I'm still struggling, like what I should say and not, but then as a comedian, I feel we have a responsibility to say what we feel and from our perspective, you know, even if whatever consequences in a way. But what are your views on those things? Like
whether like you're representing the point of view of a Chinese woman.
Yeah, exactly. Or a Korean woman, even though you're not trying to, but that's what they see you, you know, when they look at you.
You know, I think in this country, we have less of that because the United States is focused on the individual and it is more about individual expression. So, you know, if, for instance, Kathy Griffin tweets about how, you know, somebody should inject Trump with an air needle, that doesn't mean all white women want to do that, does it? So how come if you express an opinion, like, are you representing all Chinese women? No. So I think in this country, people are forgiven more. There's a lot of focus on, like, people love a good redemption story.
Yes.
And I think you're not always, you know, I don't think we have to feel like we're carrying the burden of our demographic 24/7. Because look, people make mistakes of every gender, every race, every ethnicity. So, you know, every time somebody does something bad, is it all on that demographic, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I also do, like, when AOL first came out, I would start chatting in AOL chat rooms.
You like to be social.
I do, yeah. And I almost kind of used it as a springboard for, like, my thoughts that I wasn't sure if I could, like, vocalize, like, in person to my friends, you know? Because you're, like, insecure. I was in high school. So, you know, you have all these insecurities and stuff. So I would, like, just express myself. And I wrote, like, a quote that I felt proud of at the time. And it was, and I shared it with this, like, creepy guy who was chatting with me. Because I wrote that I'm a 17-year-old girl. So, you know, he's like 35 and he's like talking to me, you know, about, like, how's life? And I was like, I have this theory. I think you should live against your stereotype just to prove your stereotype wrong. You know, and I think at the time, like, Asian women always had this stereotype of being submissive. Mm-hmm. Or we still do. Yeah. And I almost made it my goal to not be submissive, just to prove that stereotype wrong. You know, just to prove that, like, hey, not all Asian women are submissive, and I'm opinionated, and I'm a woman, and hear me roar. So I felt proud of myself, and I almost met up with that guy for coffee.
Oh boy.
Because I felt like he got me, but I was just a dumb teenager, and thank God I never met up with him. But
all right, let's do the lightning round real quick. Okay, you ready?
Yeah. Okay,
1 sentence or 2 sentences the most. Okay. If you had $100 million, what would you do?
Buy a house.
That's a big house. I would rather die than
go skydiving.
I will solve racism by
tweeting.
The most important person in life to me is
me.
Hey, self-love first. Life is short. Huh?
My sister. Go ahead.
Life is short. I'd rather
spend it laughing.
One thing I do on the road
is check out local restaurants with high reviews.
Sativa or indica?
Sativa, baby.
Who's your comedy hero?
Joan Rivers.
I love her too. Rest in peace. Your pet peeve when teaching comedy to kids?
When they're on their cell phones.
If you couldn't be a comedian, what other profession would you try?
I would be, I don't know, a nanny.
You love kids, huh? You can nanny my 4-year-old anytime. He loves you. Okay. Last place I want to be before I die.
Indonesia.
Ooh, Bali?
Yes.
I went there by myself. 3 words describe yourself.
Funny, crazy, and stoner.
You love it when audience
are high.
worst fear on stage.
Doing my joke again.
Okay, last question. Failure means
you learn something.
Yay! You got it. Cheers. Failure means you learn something, guys. So whoever wants to become a comedian, just do it.
Cheers.
Get a notebook and start writing a joke. Okay, anybody else got any questions before we go? We started a little late, so we're ending a little later. So any more questions? Oh yeah, the guys were saying that they started smoking when the quarantine started.
Everybody else started smoking. I'm so like health conscious. I'm like, just in case I get coronavirus.
Just take it. Oh yeah, I'm reading all these comments now. Puff pass. Okay, yeah. Have Esther describe her first boyfriend. Okay.
My first boyfriend I met playing ping pong in our dorm underneath, like in the basement.
Oh, how cute.
But he was an Ayn Rand enthusiast.
A what?
So, Ayn Rand, she's a philosopher, and she's basically like one of the founders of capitalism. So they hold this philosophy about like just being selfish. It's like their whole philosophy. And I had just left the Christian community that I was raised in. And so it was like so perfect because Christians are very giving, and like Ayn Rand enthusiasts are very taking.
So you started taking more, huh? Or you just gave everything, he took it.
Exactly. And so yeah, like I wouldn't want to go out with an Ayn Rand enthusiast again.
Greg said he thinks your can is empty.
It is empty.
Well, she drank the whole thing.
It is empty. I just ate a Big Mac, but I didn't get like a Coke because McDonald's doesn't sell Pepsi.
Oh.
So I just get the sandwich and the fries.
Tell us one beauty tip that you have. Besides that, you don't drink.
A beauty tip? I use aloe on my hair.
Oh.
I cut the aloe leaves, and I have a aloe
plant that you
a bunch of aloe plants. And aloe, it's like once you plant them in the ground, they multiply like crazy. Like my friend Karen gave me 2 aloe plants, and now I have like 50.
Give me some. Oh,
so
I need
multiply.
it.
So I cut the aloe leaves, and then I like rub it on my hair, and it keeps your hair really soft.
Oh, how long do you leave it in your hair?
I leave it in overnight, and then when I shampoo it, it's like the best feeling in the world because it almost feels like your hair was in some bulb. And then when you wash it off, because it's slimy.
Yeah.
You wash it off, it has this like bulbous like thing, and it gets like overtaken by the water, and then you rinse it out. It's like so cool.
Misa, you gotta try it. He's very interested in that. Put that on your head. Oh, Kelly said during the first episodes of your Coup and the Gang podcast, were those orgasms at the end the real deal or real? What?
I guess you'll never know.
Oh, Misa's gonna try it for real. He's gonna try it. He got some planted, some aloe. Hey, you take a picture and show us.
Yeah, when you have an aloe plant, don't keep it in a potted, like if you can, just plant it in the ground so that it'll multiply. Because if you just keep it in a plant, there's no room for it to multiply.
Oh, okay. I gotta find a ground.
It's crazy. I gotta find a ground.
Well, you guys, that's it for tonight. We thank Esther so much. Remember to follow her on Instagram and tip her on Venmo. Yeah, and join us tomorrow night. We're here every night till Saturday. Any last words, Esther?
No, thank you, Kiki, for always having me on your shows. You came into the comedy world like with guns ablazing. Like we've been doing stand up for a while, and then you come in and start producing shows and selling them out. So, we appreciate you contributing to the comedy community, and it's been awesome. Like your shows are always packed. So once this quarantine is over, make sure you come out to a real live show and support Kiki on these online YouTube shows while we're healthy.
Yeah, we might have a show at the apartment 503. Hopefully when it opens up, it will be outdoors. Maybe we'll cap it at 30 to 50 people.
Oh yeah, I did the 503 show outdoors. So that's perfect if it's outdoors.
Yeah, it's fun.
Awesome.
All right, friends. Crazy locations. I just gotta make Esther say it one time. Crazy locations.
Crazy locations.
Yay! All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow night. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.